Hey, we're a week and a half late, but look who it is, Swendeman.
We are back.
It's the 2 Minute Drill Podcast. Jim Monahan, Chris Swendeman. It is the Major League Baseball trade deadline edition. Lots to go over, but before we start, Swendeman, I brought a prop.
Uh-oh. Wow.
Do you know what this is?
Normally a pasta strainer, but I have a funny feeling that you're going to be using it for something different.
It's the Yankee defense.
Oh, man. Why didn't I see that coming?
Oh God, it's been bad. It just and I listen. I know Dominguez made a great catch on Wednesday, game saving,
Yep.
as a matter of fact. But it's been bad. And one more thing about Wednesday's game: what in heaven's name was Austin Wells thinking?
He wasn't. That's the problem.
And
That was as boneheaded of a move as I've seen in a very, very long time. Now, Jim, you coach at a much younger level. Have you seen anything to that bad on the base paths?
yeah, on the JV team that I coached this past year. Um, and if you didn't see the game Wednesday night, Austin Wells, thinking that there were two outs already, starts walking back to the Yankee dugout and he gets in and will run down. He's out for the third out. And it could have been disastrous for the Yankees. But here's the point. And I've coached everything from T-ball right up to a college summer league team. As the first base coach, you've got one job, and that is the first thing out of your mouth when a runner gets to first base is to tell him how many outs there are. And then after you've said that, hey, get your sign. Here's what the outfielders are doing. And depending on how high up you're going, it's a little different, of course, at the little league level because
Right.
you can't lead. But the high school level, once you get to college, you're talking about pop times from a catcher to second base, a pitcher's time from his movement to home plate. You're adding all that in. Fact,
Right.
funny story, I'm coaching the college summer league, and I tell the runner at first base first how many outs there are. And then I tell
There you
him,
go.
hey, the pitcher's time to the plate is whatever it was. And
Right.
he looked at me and said, why are you telling me that? I said, because you need to know if you can make it to second base, if you're given the steal sign, how fast he is. And he looked at me, oh, as if he'd never heard
Ding.
it before. But at any
Did
rate,
you hear the light bulb go on?
well, he was from Fordham. So I cracked a
Okay.
Fordham joke, being a Fordham
Of
alum
course.
as I am. But
Right.
again, the first thing out of your mouth as the first base coach is how many outs, and then everything builds from there. So I don't know. Wells,
I
just a
I
complete brain freeze.
I I was at a loss. You and I were texting during that period of the game, and I was at a loss. I was at a complete loss of what I was watching. Every time you think they can't keep doing this, right? And they somehow prove you wrong and do something worse. I just, whether it's Boone or whether it's the other coaches, something's got to give. Maybe you got to flip over a table. Maybe you got to do something. Guys, get it together. That's got to be the message.
I'm sure that Boone behind the scenes is ripping into these guys. He has to. I mean, there's only so much that you can take
Right.
at some point. I know that the way he presents it in his post-game conferences is much, much different. And if I'm a player,
Right.
I'm probably loving the fact that, wow, Boone's got my back. But
Yep.
meanwhile, I
Yeah.
mean, it was just bad. In the
It was
meantime,
just
let's
bad.
get to the trade deadline before we get to the Mets and Yankees, who both
Mhm.
made some very interesting moves. A big, obvious winner, the Houston Astros, surprising
Oh,
everybody by getting Carlos Correa, who said, yeah, my parents still live there. I'll come home.
I mean, that was an amazing get by them. I mean, Minnesota just like incinerated their entire lineup with 9 players that were on the roster as of yesterday dealt. But Houston, man, they really, really had an A+ trading deadline, and highlighted with the cherry on top that was Carlos Correa.
And I'm watching what the San Diego Padres were doing, and I had texted this to you before.
Yep.
I have never seen a team be both a buyer and a seller
Right.
simultaneously. it was almost lysergic in watching
It
what was going
it
on.
was very odd. But the GM and the scouting staff on the Padres, I think are really top notch. I think they have a great I have the great front office, and I think a lot of their moves were really solid. The Mason Miller deal blew me away. I think that was brilliant. And you have a closer in Suarez who is a year away from free agency. Next, in this offseason, he'll be a free agent. Mason Miller can throw. I mean, that dude throws heat. And the A's got one of the top three prospects in baseball. But you know what? San Diego, if they're going to compete with the Dodgers, you need a Mason Miller. And they went and got him. And kudos to them because the Dodgers really kind of looked silly at the deadline, to be honest. I thought the Dodgers would be making a lot of noise. It was the Padres coming out of the West that made all the noise at the deadline to me.
And we should point out that the Padres are in a really good position right now. They're in the third wild card spot, and they're
Yep.
3 games up as of right now. They're 3 games up on the next team, which would be the Cincinnati Reds. I think from the Dodgers' perspective, Chris, what they're hoping and they're counting on is we're going to get a lot of guys healthy real soon. Mookie
Right.
Betts is showing signs of coming out of it.
Right.
And just guys are starting to get healthy. And sometimes the best deals that you make are the ones you don't make.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The best trades the ones
Absolutely.
you don't
I
make.
mean, they just got Glass now back. Snell's coming back this weekend. I believe he's starting Saturday. You have Trinan who just came back for the bullpen. A couple other guys are on their way back mending. You still have Sasaki, who everybody kind of forgot about. Like, because they're an embarrassment of riches. Every time somebody gets hurt, they just put somebody else in their place. But you have all these guys. You still have Kershaw, who to me, you need a guy like that as you get towards the playoffs. He's a winner. He's going to give you innings, and he's going to give you everything he's got, and he's got the playoff experience. They're going to be okay. But I think the Padres really caught up to them really quick with a couple of real savvy moves.
Before we get to the Mets and the Yankees, because they're in the same division as the
Mhm.
Yankees, quickly on the Red Sox, I'm a little stunned that Jaron Duran is still on the roster. I think Marcelo
Me
Meyer
too.
getting hurt a few days ago probably is the reason why, because they moved Cedon Rafaela from
Yep.
center field, Gold Glove center fielder, into second base. Personally, I'm glad. I love watching Durant play. I think he's a very, very exciting player. May, who they got from the Dodgers, again, I'm a little
Yep.
surprised the
Exactly.
Dodgers let him go. May
Right.
is an improvement, but it's not exactly what they needed. And Steven Matz, who they got from the Cardinals, former Met,
Yep.
Long Island kid, will be a bit of an improvement. In the, I think they're going to use him in the bullpen, but again, not the big splash that a lot of Red Sox fans were hoping. Meanwhile, you go to the Yankees, and it's kind of a similar situation. I think Yankees fans were really hoping that we're getting a guy, and a big guy, especially starting pitching, to carry us
Right.
down the home stretch. And that did not happen.
No, and I will say, being totally honest, as a fan, this morning I was getting really disgruntled and really antsy really fast because I was seeing the names come off the boards and the trades of some of these names. And again, I go back to Mason Miller, guys like that. Johan Duran, who went to the Phillies in a brilliant move by the Phillies, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, and you saw these names coming off, these relievers, and I'm going, all right, Cash, you want to get going here? Hope somebody didn't hit the snooze button this morning. But Cashman more than made up for it with the names like Bednar and the reliever from San Francisco
Duvall.
and Duval, thank you, and Jake Berg from Colorado. I think those are three solid picks. And now you go 6, 7, 8, nine with Luke Weaver, with Devin Williams at the back end, who has been shaky but much better than he was and looking better, I would say. That's you're turning it into a 5 inning game. And your bullpen is absolutely tremendous right now because any one of those guys could close you out if you needed them in a pinch. And I think the Caballo. deal from the Rays. He only had to move from one from one dugout to the next in the middle of the game. I thought that was brilliant as well. Mr. Volpe might not see it that way, but I think that was a very shrewd move because he is a great fielder, what they need. We just spoke about that. And he could swipe bags. So he's going to get on base and he's going to move, he's going to move on the base path. Something that they severely lack, other than Jazz, in my opinion, who can get on and really switch the game by swiping a couple.
Well, I'm not sure how much he's going to get on base because he continues a problem. This is Caballero now we're talking
Right.
about.
Yeah.
Continues a problem that the Yankees are having in that. And I listen, I get it. Batting average is not what it used to be. It's not the
Right.
be all and end all. There's a lot of other statistics
Yep.
going on, but if your batting average is low, there's a chance that your on base percentage is low. And unless you're hitting bombs,
Right.
your slugging percentage isn't going to be that good. But yes, I think he can play second, he can play third, he can play short. We know what the defense has been like lately, and
Yep.
it's I get that it's in Anthony's head. He can also play all three outfield positions. The Yankees also acquired another outfielder with
Yep.
Slater, and if you're not thinking in the back of your head, Aaron Judge might not be back for a while, then I think you need to take the Yankee rose-colored glasses off or pinstripe glasses off, as
Right.
you will.
Well, also too, maybe he comes back and he has to DH. Maybe he'll be able, it's like a Bryce Harper thing. He'll be able to hit, but he won't be able to throw. So, and I think the Yankees would be wise to keep him out of the field for quite a long time whenever he does come back, just to give that arm and, elbow as much rest as possible.
And then
Because
what do
they
you do
need
with
his,
Stanton? Because you can't DH two guys.
that's the problem. Do you put him in the outfield because he's not exactly the most swift out there? And you have a couple guys that are, Bellinger's great out there. He's looked phenomenal. Grisham, okay, but still better than Stanton. So I don't know exactly what you do with him, but Judge is obviously going to take precedent at DH if need be.
So I was going through some numbers, and again, batting average, not the be all and end all, but you look at Ben Rice. His batting average 230, slugging OPS is 789. Over the last 30 games, he's hitting 228.
Right,
Goldschmidt, 282, 755, but over his last 30, he's hitting 225. Again, I get it. Batting average
right,
isn't what it used to be in terms of the number one stat, but then you look at Chisholm, 245, 813. He's hitting 257 over his last 30. You can take that. That's acceptable. You can do a lot with a guy in the lineup if you have
right,
the other pieces around him. But when some of those other pieces are guys like Austin Wells with a 212 average over the season, and I think it's 699
right.
OPS in his last 30 games, he's hitting 182.
It's brutal. Yeah,
And then you look at
absolutely
Anthony
brutal.
Volpe, and Volpe's at 215, 697 over the last 30, 188 batting average. Now, Volpe, in his defense, has hit, I think it's 6 home runs in his last 12 games. So you're looking at
Right.
Volpe, and I think Wells also has 15 or 16 jacks. You're looking like these guys are going to hit 25 home runs each. I'll take that. But if it's
Mm,
all or
yeah.
nothing with a lot of
Right.
these guys in the lineup, none of the moves that the Yankees made address any of those problems. Defensively, they got better. There is no question
Right.
about it. The
Absolutely.
bullpen, which was a problem in some areas, got better. They didn't get the starting arm and they didn't get the bat that I think they were really looking for.
Let's not discount Ryan McMahon too, which who we did not mention yet, that they got last week from Colorado. I think his glove at third was sorely needed, and I think he's going to hit well for the way he hits. I think he'll do well in Yankee Stadium, not as well as Colorado because everybody hits better in Colorado, but I think that is an understated move that they did getting McMahon. But I agree with you. There was still certain things that they needed on defense and guys that have good OBPs to get on base that they just did not address. But I don't know how much, Cashman was able to get done or what the prices were on certain players. That's all the stuff we don't
Mm-hmm.
see. So sometimes you just got to say, well, okay, chalk it up to, all right, well, this is what they got. And, fans get all disgruntled, but you don't know the conversations that went on. Everybody wants to get the best players available, but you don't know the price tag. Yeah, one of the players that was dangling, and I said, please, if there is a baseball god, let him wind up on the Yankees, was the outfielder for Cleveland, Stephen Kwan. Now, there is an on base machine that would be so perfect for the Yankees. But what was the cost? He wound up staying put. What does that tell you? Probably the cost was Cleveland set the bar really high for somebody, to make the trade for him.
I'm
So,
guessing Spencer Jones was probably that bar.
and I was just going to say, a lot of teams apparently were asking Spencer Jones, and the Yankees rebuffed everybody. And I think it was Heyman who tweeted earlier today saying the only player that the Yankees will mention Spencer Jones in the same sentence with was Skeens from Pittsburgh. And that's setting the bar really high to say what you think about Spencer Jones.
Meanwhile, let's go to the other winner. I think we talked about the Astros winning
Yep.
for the American League, the other team that won the trade deadline, and it's the New York Mets. If you're a Met fan, you have to be ecstatic about what this team did. The bullpen alone, and then they get Mullins from the Orioles, and again,
Yeah.
not a great hitter, but he does lengthen the lineup a little bit, and he is a superb defensive outfielder.
Absolutely. I would have liked to have seen them if I could have ideally created a scenario for the Mets. I liked Luis Robert from the White Sox. I thought he would have been great paired with Soto, but for Mullins, he can get on base. He's got a good hit tool. Not great, like you said, but his glove, phenomenal. He'll be a great piece in the outfield for them. And they've kind of played mix and match this season with their outfielders. But Rogers in the bullpen,
Oh,
Helsley, who I mean has been on lockdown for the Cardinals. They got a steal, absolute steal with Helsley. I couldn't believe the Cardinals gave him up for what they gave him up for. And kudos to the Mets. They really, really did themselves really well at the deadline for sure.
and the fact that they did it without giving up a frontline major league player to
Right.
me is amazing. And for the most, and
And
for that matter, the Yankees did pretty much the same thing. They really didn't
right.
give up. You're giving up prospects, no question about it. You're dipping deep into that farm system, but that's
Yeah.
why you have these prospects. Because if you hang on to them too long, you're in trouble.
Exactly. And the Mets have a couple of guys that are McLean and Sproat, um, who are like just knocking on the doorstep as it is. And they've said they may use those guys as relief. They're both starters, but they may use them in a relief role to get them acclimated to the pros this year. Now, that's like bringing up a couple of other relievers or trading for a couple where the Yankees went and got a couple more relievers. They could bring these guys up who are high end prospects and put them in the bullpen with now when you got Rogers and Helsley leading up to Diaz, the Mets are looking really, really nice right now and put themselves in a great position.
Yeah, they did a great job at the trade deadline. So we'll see how all of this plays out as we head into the final 2 months of the regular season and the playoffs. Hey, a quick plug before we say sayonara. Next Tuesday, August 5th,
Hmm.
we have another special guest
Yeah.
coming on. He was my guest a couple of times when I was doing the morning jolt on WDHA, and that is former NFL general manager Michael Lombardi. He is now the GM of the North Carolina Tar Heels. He's
Yep.
written two amazing books. I know you've read one, if not both of them.
Absolutely. No, both of them. Yep.
Phenomenal writer and
Oh, great.
insight into the game like you cannot imagine. So we're going to be talking with Michael Lombardi next Tuesday night.
Yep.
And then coming up in a couple of weeks, a dear friend of mine, he was a promotions executive for Columbia Records, Paul Rappaport, who has a brand new book out that has some amazing stories in it. Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, Pink Floyd. He even got to play on stage with Pink Floyd. So the
That's
stories that
crazy.
Paul has are amazing. So you know the drill. If you like what we do,
Mhm.
pun intended, 2 minute drill, you know the drill. Get it? Sorry.
Got it.
I need new writers.
Hey.
If you like what we do, tell a friend, like, subscribe, all of that, download. If you don't like it, tell an enemy, but for heaven's sake, tell somebody. Swenderman, we'll talk again next week.
You got it, Jim. Talk to you next week.